We are also, I think we keep here. So how many of us are grown up vegetarian? How many vegans here? There are three vegans in the room. How many vegetarians? And same amount of non-vegetarians. Correct? Non-vegetarians don't have to be shy because we are in the same boat.
I used to be a non-vegetarian, by the way. So I'm not,
So Poorva, you're a Gujarati?
I'm Gujarati, but my dad moved to the US in 1969, my mother in 1973, and even though generationally they were vegetarian, having moved to the US at that time when the concept of being vegetarian was really, like, you have to be quite a weirdo to be vegetarian in the US at that time. So in order to fit into society, my dad started eating meat, and so I grew up being allowed to eat whatever. And so, I had American friends and stuff like that, so I would eat it. I would eat beef. I would eat anything because it was there, and I didn't think of it as strange, as I think of it as strange now, but I didn't think it was strange then. And I wore leather, and I bought animal tested products, and I didn't think about anything, but I also loved animals. So I thought, so if I saw a dog or something, it's a dog, or even a squirrel, or, I loved animals, but I didn't draw that connect until a friend of mine, one time I was eating a chicken sandwich. We were just teenagers, so we were in a mall food court, and I was eating a chicken sandwich, and she's like, "Are you really going to eat that?" And even though, my dad was eating meat, my mom had started eating eggs, she wasn't eating meat, but even nonetheless, I never thought myself to be vegetarian. And it was really my friend's comment, and I think the reason why it struck me is it wasn't coming from a religious place, it wasn't coming from a cultural place, it was coming from an ethical place. And I thought, even though I know it's called chicken in the first place, I knew it was a chicken, but it took her comment for me to consider, well, that's true. And for me to start rethinking my own dietary choices, and then that's how I became vegetarian and then ultimately vegan after I learned the connection between that and started my own journey that way.
We've got a couple of more questions. So
How much time you taken from non-vegetarian to vegan?
So at that time, I'm talking, so I've been vegan for probably 26 years. You can probably do the math to figure out how old I am by this point, but I went vegetarian around the age of 16 and then vegan a few years later because I didn't know. Nobody told me, I had no idea. So I went vegan around the age of 22, 23.
So a few things. One is now we've established that the vegetarians who are proud vegetarians are as bad as non-vegetarians. I think I've figured that since 9 months, and I tell all my vegetarian friends, stop thinking you're better off than your non-veg friends. You all are the same, and I'm different now. But when someone is not willing to see a video which is authenticated coming from the source, let's say PETA or maybe from a Jain, ashram or whatever, of what's happening to these animals, how do we put this across in the best way for them to accept and acknowledge, at least? We don't want everybody to switch tomorrow. I mean, that's maybe not practical, but at least accept it and at least kind of be open to that voice from across. How is the best way to approach it? Because we have a lot of friends who are eating both veg and non-veg foods and other lifestyles. But what are the better best practices to get through that aisle?
So I guess I have a few thoughts on this. One is I always, when someone doesn't want to watch a video or something like that, I always say, it's really hard to watch, right? And then yes, and like, imagine how hard it is to bear. You know, it's like you can't even watch it. So that's one thing. And then the other is, I try to remind people, like, you do so many difficult things in life. You know, you've probably gone to university, you like tried hard to get the right job. Like, we do so many difficult things. Deciding to use oat milk versus milk in your coffee is not one of those things. It's like a small little thing, you know? It's not some groundbreaking kind of, and we think of these things as if it's some huge mountain to climb, and it really isn't. It's really the simplest thing. And they say that if you change your habit, if you try to do something for just 21 days or a month, you really start thinking of it differently. So it's not as if you have to think, oh, I'm going to do this for the whole rest of my life and start freaking out from that thought. Just think, okay, 1 month, you know, and see how it goes. And I think a lot of times what happens is people do this and then they eat cheese, or they, you know, have an ice cream or paneer, and they think, oh, now I can't do it, and they give up and they do, you know, go back to square one. But you can just instead say, okay, I did that, you know, forgive yourself, whatever, and move on, because you're going to help so many more animals if you continue to start moving toward your goal than to give up entirely, because it's not about purity, it's not about perfection, it's just about moving in that direction that you want to move to do the best that you can, and then ultimately reach your goal. You know, I've been vegan all these years. People are like, oh, don't you miss it? I'm like, no. It's not as if I've been, you know, torturing myself all these years. You really do start thinking of it differently. So now when I see milk, I mean, my mom used to give me like milk 3 times a day, and I think I was maybe even lactose intolerant because I would have these stomach issues all the time when I was a kid, and then that all went away. But now when I see the milk, it really is like this pussy thing that's come from the udder of an animal. Like, I don't think of it as something that I want, or like I think of meat or cheese, you know, foods that I used to eat in a similar kind of way. So I think the way you think of it starts really changing over time, or at least it did for me.
You don't get lunch till you have some more questions. Anybody who's, in reference to some of our non-vegetarian friends, what are your experiences in terms of growing up in environments? And I think it's also similarly said, right, for muscle building and for this and that and the other.
Well, I think the biggest thing as well is where it's culturally or traditionally the case, right? Where it's like, oh, this is my culture, this is my tradition, or this is my family does, or this is my community does. And, you know, having grown up in the US, I totally get that. And it's, you know, to be that outlier, but culture, tradition, all these things are not static, they change. And
the sapiens, in the book, it's completely, he's shown it.
Yeah.
Not just keep shifting.
In fact, even the meat eating culture has changed, because people who eat meat today are eating so much more meat than we ever did in the past. So even that culture has changed. So people now eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's, you know, really impacting our health. Whereas once upon a time it was eaten once in a while. So and it's, I don't know, what's the point of being born with a brain if you're just gonna like follow like what you were told without question? And so I think express these like culture and family and this and that by, for example, joining others who have had a similar journey. You know, there's lots of vegan groups or, you know, these kinds of things people can join. You know, you can go vegan with a friend or something like that. And I think, you know, we have also, like at PETA, and people are sometimes surprised to hear this, we have Muslims, we have Christians, we have, you know, people who've come from backgrounds which are traditionally meat eating, who are vegan. And it has nothing to do with any of that. You know, it's just a choice that an individual has made.
You mentioned you had some videos. I think we are probably ready at some point whenever we have a chance to see that. But any other questions before we have
On your Watson, these are should the latest new or the daily version?
Which
Maybe
one is it?
This is the third one. That one is the early one. I've sent
Well,
one.
this is a nice video. Should we play this real quick? Just a little. Do you have any, you know, we have this tool that goes to schools. She's a talking elephant and she talks to children about being kind to animals. So if you're
She's voiced by Pia Mirza, actress Pia Mirza. The voice is of Pia Mirza.
So you have anything like website or something and then people can read some alternate or if someone is new for vegan or someone is like few of my friends like always have the same question, no, we have to have like meat, like you know.
Yeah, so I
have
mean,
something that we can show to friends and families
Yeah.
that
well, we have
all
all
the
sorts of resources, yeah, on PETAindia.com, and you also follow us on social media because we put these videos up, and they're always good to share. I think once people see the video, it's like hard to unsee. Yeah.
Hi kids, this is my friend, and would you like to meet her?
Hi everyone, my name is Ellie. I'm here to tell you my story. I'm 12 years old and I've spent most of my life in the circus, where I was very sad. In the circus, life was terrible. When people see us adorned in costumes and paint, I'm sure they don't have any idea what our lives are really like. They watch us doing tricks and think everything is fine, but it's not. The circus is no fun for elephants. And guess what? Neither are rides or ceremonies for which we are forced to stand for hours. The loud drums hurt our ears, and we're scared of all human clamor. I'll never forget the police who took me to the circus. They forced me in a wooden box and jabbed me with sticks, but I couldn't understand what they wanted or why they were being so mean to me. They just kept beating me. Then they forced me to do weird, uncomfortable things, like balancing a ball on my trunk and standing up on my back legs. You have the power to help elephants who are still being held against their will. Please promise never to go to a circus that has animal acts. Please also promise never to ride on an elephant or any other animal. Now, I have to go. Bye everyone!
Did you learn something today? What did you learn? Elephants do not like to be in circuses. Elephants do not want to give rides. Elephants feel lonely without other elephants. Elephants' feelings can also get hurt. I learned elephants can be sad sometimes.
How can we make elephants happy?
By not hurting them.
That's right. We can make elephants happy by letting them live with their families in their jungle homes.
Yes!
If you want Ellie in your children's school or something, definitely feel free to get in contact.
Most of the people,
Do you know which is the other video?
the classrooms I've seen. The actor R. Madhavan in the next video, he has voiced, he has given his voice.
So actually I switch my field from agency to another agency, and then there are such beautiful videos where they can show that how they are love their cows and
Yeah.
how they are treatment the cows and everything, like opposite of these videos.
Yeah.
And then the milk is very costly.
Yeah.
Okay. So from that particular videos, and I visited that farms and everything,
Yeah.
and then we switch to that milk.
Right.
So sometimes we confuse that which videos and which is the reality. So how
Yeah. Well, I think on the whole, if you're buying milk from the supermarket, it's from the kinds of cows and buffaloes that we're showing you. There may be one or two farms here and there that may make more higher welfare claims, but some of the inherent cruelties would still be there because you can't get rid of them. So say, for example, they would still have the problem of what to do with calves.
Calves,
So,
male
yeah,
calves,
male calves. They would still have that issue. They would still have,
That they could be easily hiding.
yeah, and so the other thing
Male
is
calf
that,
નું શું કરે એ લોકો?
yeah.
So when you ask such type of question,
Yeah.
how they react? What they?
So, first of all, there's some,
The
some.
main confusion is
Yeah.
what is true and what should be
Oh,
shown.
sure.
That's
So-
only the.
But there's so many. So say, for example, the way that they make these animals pregnant also is a violation. The cow or buffalo is struggling. The workers hold her down and they jab something up her backside. It's quite a violent process. So that in and of itself is a horrific thing. Then there's the male
Equivalent to
calves.
rape.
Yeah, rape. I mean, we would call it rape if it would happen to even a dog, right? So that happens. But then the other thing is, there's no such thing as a government certification or any checks or anything on these claims. They're self-proclaimed, And the thing is, it's something we don't need. So rather give the animals the benefit of the doubt, instead of taking a risk. Actually, are nice to have if you want them. They're totally not required because most vegetarian food in India, if you remove the ghee, is vegan.
Yeah.
We're already eating vegan. There's recipes on the internet if you want to make your own vegan milk and so on. It's quite easy to do. So you can do it economically that way, but it's only there for taste. It's not even required. Because most of us, and I think that's the thing, most of us, even if before we were vegan, are eating lots of original vegans. There's a tribe in Ladakh that thousands of years ago, it said that they were vegan. So, originally, the original vegans were probably Indian. And of course, India is known the world over for all of its vegetarianism.
Ahimsa and other things.
Ahimsa, cultural reverence for animals. We're the ones that taught the West.
How to be
Yeah, to be kind to animals. It's not Western, really, at all. That's not even what you asked, but now I'm going off on a tangent. But yeah, in terms of affordability, if you can afford vegetarian food, you can afford vegan.
Basically, body not required any meat.
That is the market.
That is the
Not only not required, it is wrong for your body. Because
Yeah.
no other mammals drink milk of any other mammal or any other species. We are the only species, and that too after weaning off. There is
But after
milk
so
is-
many years without imagination without imaging of the milk, it's quite difficult to digest.
It's a
and
cultural
everything.
thing. We understand. There are many of us who changed overnight because we were animal lovers and we
Correct,
saw
correct,
what is the cruelty to animals, and it was an
You know,
ethical reason for us.
lot of
It's a
people
practical
who are
question.
animal lover, they are purely non-vegetarian.
Yeah, that is also
5 pets in the whole
Yeah.
I know it's
house,
possible.
and they are non-vegetarian.
Yeah.
They love dogs, but
I
they
know.
eat.
They are dog lovers for us, not animal lovers. Distinguish them. They are dog lovers, cat lovers, and at least for their own purpose, like Poorva was saying, yeah, I find them as a friend, they give me comfort, because dog comes and licks you and
One thing that opened up that actually the milk is for the babies.
Yeah.
For the babies like a human.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's very logical.
Even it's only the humans are consuming the other.
A question for pride of cows could be, just next time, how many male animals do you have on the farm? And can we extend it?
Okay, 10.
More.
And unless they have endless land and endless resources, they're doing
just think how
something.
expensive it can become if they have to take care of all the milk cows and also the cows which are not giving milk anymore after 5-6 years. And also the big problem is the pregnancy. Without pregnancy they cannot give milk. So this is the first cruelty. To give milk itself is there to rape them.
Yeah.
And as clear as that.
Artificial intelligence.
So the first cruelty comes, the very first drop of milk comes only after the rape.
Yes.
She will not willingly go and get pregnant, you know? So that's the base of it.
There would usually always be something, like meaning like if you're making like dinner or something, there would be the dal and there would be things which everybody can eat, and I think it's just a matter of like leaving out the rest or, this kind of a thing. Yeah, and sometimes it's cooking for others and showing them that it's really, good, delicious food.
I think one idea that I tried was avoid the paneer. I mean, if there are 3 things, usually Guju houses there are 2-3 things at least, maybe 5 sometimes. But just avoid the fish pack.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
eventually, if it's a household of 3 or 4, the chef will understand this is going to go to waste. So I'm not going to make it for him. That's the best way to do it. But the commitment is huge.
Some have is there, 2-3 Maharaj is there.
No,
Yeah.
even if there are 2 items or 3, skip the one which has the
Right.
most amount of it.
If you're served chicken, you will not eat, right? Even if there is the only thing, you are a vegetarian, even if there is the only thing available to eat, you will still not eat, right? That is the ethical part of it. So just increase your ethics to include all the animals and all the cruelties which are beyond your vision also. This is come to your understanding now.
Usually, people I think initially think of it as some big huge deal, but it's usually a matter of slight change. On vegetarian food, it's like super slight.
दाल रोटी सब्जी चावल everything is vegan. सिर्फ ऊपर से हम घी डालते हैं या दही का कुछ बना देते हैं कुछ. That's the only thing which we have to do. It's not a big deal, and your body will adjust and change, and in fact thrive on non-vegan food because the only source of cholesterol or whatever lifestyle diseases that you're getting is from the animal products. And it is as simple science as that. Our body creates our own cholesterol. Our body has all the functions to keep itself healthy. If we stop consuming outside food which is not meant for us.
Even my mom, when I went vegan all those years ago, she would, oh no, I just put a little. And I'm like, nah. So I had to kind of,
Stop. Hard stop.
yeah, like not even a little bit, you know, and then, but now she's obviously, my brother's also vegan. My family, they were meat eating, as I mentioned, now they've they're all vegetarian and veganish, but my brother is vegan.
There's also a new concept called 90-10, where people say I'm 90% vegetarian or 90% vegan and 10% not. And I used to be harassed by my wife because all day long I would say I'm vegan and in the night I would eat ice cream. And she would make jokes out of this in front of all my friends. I said I don't care because at least my lunch and dinner is vegan. That's enough. That's a start. And okay, my tongue wants the ice cream, I had it. But over a year, and then there are so many ice cream options. I don't think I have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And the more vegans we have, the cheaper the product gets. I
Yes,
think that's
yeah.
something we are also.
Now there's so much.
So I just have one question.
Yeah.
In my family in village, they have this business completely. This is completely bread and butter
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Like whole family, just kids, everything studying because of that.
Uh-huh.
A lot of generations has get the money, everything, whatever they got because of this business. They are
Yeah.
taking care of all the animals like a family.
Right.
They have their names, they are doing a routine doctor checkup, everything they are doing.
Yeah.
And they are taking care like a family members of that, all the things. So
Yeah.
like how we can tell them like how that kind of people convert into this.
Yeah, it's true. And obviously there's going to be like, you know, more challenges sometimes in certain situations, but there's many examples and a growing number of examples where even people who, you know, grew up in that way or had a certain business have now changed. I'll give you one example of this person. You know the company Baskin Robbins, the ice cream company? The son of the founder of Baskin Robbins is vegan.
And there's like only 2 flavors is a vegan always.
Yeah, and they have vegan
Missing
flavors
one.
now. But the son, and as difficult as I suppose it would have been for this person, saw what actually was happening with the dairy animals and so on, and decided to change course. So that's one thing. But there's also, for example, there's a dairy in New York that now is no longer a dairy. They make milk out of, I think, peanuts or something like this. There's a number of, you know, meat farmers who have switched also. It's not impossible.
Time means is that business. No more. In another 5 years, we'll be 80% lactose for our. So it's a different material. And how to grow it, how to cultivate it is something we got to learn. And unlearn.
Yeah, there's a restaurant in London. It's a French restaurant, and PETA started talking to them because they were serving something called foie gras, which is a product made out of force-feeding geese. So what they do is they force-feed geese until their livers are diseased, and people eat their livers. I mean, that's what it is. We talked to their chef and the founder of the restaurant about our concerns. Through that, he learned about everything else. Now it's a vegan French restaurant. Yeah, so we all have the capacity.
So I'm just taking it back. These are very yours. Some people have started reading and making their notes. So
Okay.
they carry their notes.
Oh, that's nice.
Share their notes. You share it without leaving this.
The first third time, अभी वो भी कर सकते हैं, but you're not signing it. The firewall is not allowing you to.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Madhavan, and I'm a vegetarian. When you see what goes on inside slaughterhouses, I think you'll lose your appetite for animal flesh too. Animals feel pain just as people do. They value their lives just as we value ours. They are terrified by sights and smells of the slaughterhouses, and they fight for every last breath. If you eat animals, you should know what happens to chickens, pigs, cows, sheep, fish, and other animals used for food. Please give me a few moments to show you the routine cruelty involved in raising, transporting, and killing these animals. Chickens are the most abused animals on the planet. Those raised for their flesh are packed in filthy sheds, often with thousands of other birds. Fumes from their accumulated waste burn their throats and eyes. Most birds lose their feathers and develop blistering, ulcerated feet and other ailments. They are pushed to grow such unnaturally large upper bodies so fast that their legs often become crippled under their own weight. PETA India has exposed shocking cruelty to chickens, including live scalding, starvation, and mutilation of birds. On egg farms, hens spend their entire lives crammed into wire cages so small that they can't even spread a single wing. Since they can't use them, their muscles waste away and their bodies deteriorate. Standing on the wire, their feet become lacerated. The ends of their sensitive beaks are cut off with a hot blade, causing them chronic pain. Some birds starve to death when eating becomes too painful. They never even see their chicks. At the end of their miserable lives, chickens are grabbed by their frail legs and wings, often causing broken bones. Many chickens are transported to shops where they are tied together upside down by their legs and then crammed into cages. The terrified birds have their throats slit with blunt knives and often put in a drum full of scalding water whilst they are still conscious. Like chickens, pigs are friendly, inquisitive animals who love their family members. They often snuggle close together and sleep nose to nose. Newborn piglets learn to run to their mother's voices, and pigs often sing to them while nursing. Pigs raised for pork are often confined to small, filthy concrete pens. They are slaughtered nearby, often in front of other pigs. They are repeatedly and haphazardly stabbed in their heart, and they scream out in pain. Cows have long-term memories and complex problem-solving skills. Cows and buffaloes are gentle animals who grieve when separated from their loved ones. Female cows and buffalo produce milk for their offsprings, not for humans. But in today's tabelas, animal factories that are steadily replacing family farms, cows and buffaloes are treated like mere milk machines. PETA India's investigators have seen cows and buffaloes confined to stalls in which they are forced to stand knee-deep in excrement. Cows and buffaloes are artificially inseminated using unsanitary equipment, exposing animals to infections and disease. They are often injected with an illegal drug that causes them to produce excessive quantities of milk and suffer severe stomach cramps. Calves are taken from their mothers shortly after birth. They are tethered on short ropes in order to prevent them from reaching their mothers. They often become entangled and strangled to death as they struggle to break free. When the mothers can no longer produce milk, they too are sent to slaughterhouses, often to be turned into leather. Many cows are forced to walk long distances to the slaughterhouses without food or water. When they collapse from exhaustion, illness or injury, handlers rub chili powder into their eyes and break their joints in their tails to make them move. Others are crammed into lorries in such large numbers that many animals are crushed or gouged by the horns of other animals en route to the slaughterhouse. Animals who survive the long journeys are usually dragged or pushed into slaughterhouses where they are cut open, often with blunt knives, on floors that are covered with feces, blood, guts and urine in front of their companions. goats and sheep, sensitive animals who wag their tails, affectionately nuzzle people and worry when they're separated from their social groups, are often grabbed by their fur or wool and thrown or sometimes pulled by their ears into extremely crowded lorries. Those who do survive this ordeal are typically killed in front of other terrified animals at slaughterhouses. Workers often use such dull knives that the animals endure prolonged agony before they lose consciousness. Fish too are intelligent and have fascinating traits. Dr. Sylvia, one of the world's leading marine biologists, says, "I wouldn't deliberately eat a grouper any more than I would eat a cocker spaniel. They're so good-natured and so curious." You know, fish are so sensitive, they have personalities. They hurt when they're wounded. And yet, fish are killed by the billions in ways that would be illegal were they any other species. Dolphins, whales, turtles, birds, and non-target fish, what the fishing industry calls bycatch, are routinely snared by the hooks and entangled in the nets. Their lifeless bodies dumped back in the ocean. Fish farms are cruel to animals and harmful to the environment. Farmed fish are often forced to swim in their own waste in congested, toxic cesspools. Conditions on some farms are so horrendous that 40% of the fish die before farmers are ready to kill and package them as food. It can take up to 2.5 kilograms of wild fish to produce just 400 grams of farmed fish. Fish markets flout basic norms of hygiene, and endangered species such as sharks and dolphins are often sold openly. Meat, eggs, and dairy products are riddled with fat, cholesterol, and they're often tainted with Campylobacter, Salmonella, and other harmful bacteria. Eating animals put you at risk for diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and other health problems. And factory farms are responsible for outbreaks of bird flu, swine flu, SARS, and other animal-borne diseases. The United Nations report concluded that a global shift towards a vegetarian diet is necessary to combat climate change, water shortages, forest destruction, pollution, and world hunger. Going vegetarian is the best thing you can do to help animals, people, and the planet. For me, being vegetarian is all about being compassionate. I love animals, so I would never eat them. I hope you also make a compassionate choice and go vegetarian. And please, share this with your friends. Thank you.
This is an old video, but everything that you've seen in it is exactly what still happens. Back then, we would use the word vegetarian and vegan kind of interchangeably when that's how, back then. But now we have that distinctive word at PETA, how we use it. That's why he was saying vegetarian when he really meant vegan.
So PETA says that vegetarians are equal to non-vegetarians.
No, what we try to help people understand is that if they're vegetarian to avoid causing animals harm, then consuming dairy certainly causes animals harm. So it's just to recognize that. And eggs too. A lot of people consider themselves vegetarian when they're eating eggs, and people say, oh, animals are not killed for eggs, but they are, because many people don't realize that the chickens who are bred for meat, so they're bred to be very big on the top, and they're bred for meatier bodies, and the ones bred for eggs are bred to produce an abnormal number of eggs, so they're different. So even in the same way as milk, the animals used for eggs, the male chicks, they are also considered useless because they cannot produce eggs. So they're killed by way of being drowned, suffocated, burned, they're fed live to fish on fish farms and stuff like that. But also, I would have to say, like, if you had to say, okay, if you had to pick an animal that has the worst life, chickens, egg-laying chickens are really high on that list because they're raised in these cages that are so small they can't even spread a wing or turn around, and their toes gnarl into the wire, and they're so frustrated that they, even as humans would, if you're confined like this, they attack each other. So in this confined space, it's really a hellish existence. I don't think you can think of a cruelty worse to make somebody endure than egg-laying chickens.
So then with that, I think after that video, I think we may have lost some appetite for lunch, but we still have lunch. Any last question? We have just room for one more, and then
Just one question.
last question. Yeah.
In our village, like I said, we have methods, we have cows also. Sorry. We have in our villages, we have Goshala and हर घर में है वो. We have what's called farming and then cows. So we treat them as a family members. When there is a birth, new birth in the also we celebrate like in our house what we do. And when we take the milk, first we give the child to have a milk. Then when he finishes, then only we take out the milk. And that is not for sale, that is for household. So how do you see that one and then other which is we are getting in commercial?
Yeah. So I think, most people, milk production, if we're looking at it just on a national scale or global scale, most people are buying milk commercially from the supermarket. Even in a family style of existence, if you're talking purely from like a rights perspective, certainly it's, I'm sure, not as cruel, anywhere near as cruel as commercial milk production. You may still have some of the same kinds of issues and concerns that come up that I kind of mentioned. Are you going to keep all the calves and all, that kind of a thing would still be there. But also most of these animals, like we work very heavily in rural areas of Maharashtra and stuff like that. They're tied on a short rope to some tree in the sun. They don't really have a life. Their entire existence and purpose is to produce this milk, for this family. And we say that we treat them as family members, but really you're not tying your mother to a tree, I mean, it's like, that's not really how we treat family members, real family members. So it's like, we're still treating them in this kind of way that we're denying them their quality existence oftentimes. It's a lot less cruel, for sure, usually. But still, nevertheless, oftentimes these animals still will go to slaughter, still, there's still some of these same cruelties that happen.
I think with that, Poorva, thank you very, very much. Yeah, for Karen's role last minute, because I'm so touched that you made it. With just a quick message from one of us, and both of you were so happy. You gladly accepted our invitation. As I mentioned earlier, we are at the beginning of our journey of being animal cruelty free as a company. It's my personal goal, and I hope most of you will manage to accompany me on it, although reluctantly or with all the love. We love your guidance going forward in everything that we do, just not food, but other areas. We'd like to collaborate wherever we can. We're a smallish company, but I think collectively we can do a lot of things. We've not only distributed 110 books or 120 now, but we'll do a lot more together. Need your support in making sure, as an industry, as a jewelry industry, how can we be animal product free, and maybe we see what else we can do with you. Thank you once again, both of you all, for making it here, and a small token of appreciation somewhere.
Oh, that's nice.
So I would like to take one book from your hand. As a photograph, get your autograph.